Good evening, everyone. This is Jiiko speaking, and welcome to another episode of Sensational, the Season Sister Soulcast, where you are going to have women of the age 40 and above sharing their wisdom, sharing their heart, and sharing their experience about topics surrounding life, love, health, and wealth. And tonight, our topic is my trauma affecting my relationships? You hear people talking about trauma all the time nowadays. It's my trauma. It's my trauma. But do we really even understand what trauma is? Are we using that properly? And if it is impacting our lives, do we know how to recognize its impact or its effects? Well, today we have a special guest who will support us in understanding this topic better. Her name is Theresa Caldwell, and she is our go to trauma and resilience professional. She is also a certified listening professional. She's been doing this work upwards of 10 years. But as we know, as seasoned sisters, some of these things we've been doing it all our lives. We just finally took on that part of our calling. So we are so glad that she took that on because she has supported so many over the years. So without any further ado, Theresa Caldwell.
Oh, hey there, sensational Sister Jiiko. How are you?
Hello,
And
great.
and all the other sensational sisters on here tonight. It's really wonderful to be with you. However, I am sorry that we're meeting under these traumatic circumstances, but it's going to be wonderful to talk about it. This is why I do this work. Is my trauma affecting my relationships? Is what we're talking about. So, first of all, let's start with the old. You see, this is from 2014, a definition of trauma, just the standard one. What is trauma? So, individual trauma results from an event, series of events, or set of circumstances. Remember that that is experienced by an individual as physically or emotionally harmful or life threatening, and it has lasting adverse effects on the individual's functioning and mental, physical, social, emotional, or spiritual well being. This used to be called the three E's definition: event, experience, and has effects. But a lot of times people say it's really just um, an experience in life that is that overwhelms your ability to deal with it, to manage it, to move through and beyond it. And what's really key about this too is not just event, it's a series of events or a set of circumstances. So it doesn't have to be just this one thing. It can be many things that are happening to you. And and it has these lasting effects on you, how you function, and your mental, physical, social, emotional, or spiritual well being. And this matters because trauma, especially adverse childhood experiences, can have a lifelong impact on your health and wellness, as well as the health and wellness of the people around you. Adverse childhood experiences are a set of things that happen to us before we're 18 years old. A lot of times I'm talking about that, but to talk about things a little more broadly this evening. And that's one of the things with there's a graphic here that is it just shows this overall environment. It's a tree, and there's the soil that and the roots of the tree, and then there's the land, and there's the trunk of the tree and all the branches, and then the environment that it's in. And it is showing that trauma, atrocious cultural experiences, it calls it here. These things can happen. You could literally be born into situations where there's history, there's poverty in violent communities, discrimination, all these things that you can be born into this situation, and then these things happen to you as a child. That can happen different forms of abuse and neglect and just other experiences in the home, including not even having a home. And then there are things that can happen around you. We have all lived through a pandemic. I mean, sometimes, you know, when you stop and think about the history that you have lived through, because that's the other thing, time, the moment in time can have an effect on you. And so these are all things that are what you're born into, what you live into, then how you move in the world, and these other things can happen to you, and how you can just be minding your business, and then a pandemic shows up, or an earthquake, or a flood, or a fire. It can change everything. And a key component of trauma is the experience of loss. You don't even have the words for it necessarily. There's just this thing about my parents, they're the people who raised me, my trusted adult. I should be able to trust them. I should feel safe around them. I should be able to have some things, have toys or have relationships or have a home or whatever. And I should be able to keep that. We just kind of think these things. We just expect it. Our boundaries, we expect our boundaries to be respected, you know. This boundary, my body, there are times when people don't respect it. And I just expect that. And it doesn't happen. I'm not safe in it. I can lose my sense of safety even within my own body. My connection to other people, I can lose that. I can lose these things. And that is more a set of circumstances, and it feels harmful. And a lot of times I can't even put words to it. So this is a quote from work of Harville Hendricks and Helen LaKelly Hunt, which is before I heard about adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, and all the research that then came out of that, and trauma-informed care. I heard about their work, Getting the Love You Want, and things like that. And they talk about how your childhood will affect your relationships. An immediate connection about so many things that can happen to us in childhood, whether it's the traumatic experiences or others. They have their imago relationship therapy that they talk about how you have this image that's in your mind of what a relationship should look like, and that can and not just the positives but the negatives. It's just that you have this that's imprinted on you, and there are ways that you are still trying to either deal with that, process that, have that, or there are parts of what relationship might feel like in these situations as you grow up that you're still trying to, you want to put like a positive end on them. You know how like in films, Jiiko, I know you can appreciate filmmaking. Do a film and run it for the test audience with one ending, and then they hate it, so then you want to go back and redo the ending, and then next thing you know it's a big hit or something like that. So we actually can do that inside of ourselves sometimes in our relationships, trying to get the other stuff. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk is the person best known for seminal book, The Body Keeps the Score, and how your trauma and stuff, it's like it doesn't go anywhere in the past, it's still in here. And he's got a whole list of things that he some in a fairly recent years talk where he talks about things that you can do. And it's interesting because he lists them in this order, and how often we are trying to process traumatic memories before we do some of these other things, like tell the truth. And I grew up like a lot of us grew up here, and tell the truth and shame the devil, but telling the truth is not necessarily as easy as one might think it is. And establish or reestablish communities. Community, and that's wonderful about this experience here. This is community where we can tell the truth in this community and take action where you have a sense of agency. I am doing something to take care of myself. And emotion regulation. How do I deal with all the overwhelm? You hear about the stress that she was talking about before. And access your emotional brain, like know yourself, know what kinds of, what are your buttons and how are they often pressed? And then let me go back to emotion regulation and how can I take care of that? Doing a lot of these things, just spending some time with ourselves before we then start trying to process these traumatic memories out of the body. Jai, go ahead and read some of the things that are the roots, things that situations you could be born into. You don't have anything to do with any of this stuff.
So
This is
we're
stuff
seeing
that
down here, we're seeing genocide, slavery, colonization, atrocious cultural experiences, forced family separation, segregation, harmful social norms. And even down in the roots, we have discrimination, we have lack of economic mobility, we have many things of that nature.
Poverty,
So,
yeah,
yeah,
discrimination.
poverty, all of these
Correct,
things. And then
correct.
in the upper tree, we have, look, I had to grab my glasses.
That's all right.
We have
Things that
domestic
can.
violence,
Yes, yes,
divorce,
yes,
emotional and sexual abuse,
yes, yes.
maternal depression. I'm hearing so much about that nowadays. I'm
Oh,
hearing
absolutely.
physical and emotional neglect,
Neglect, yes.
substance abuse,
Which now a
incarceration.
lot of times we call that substance use disorder.
Okay, okay.
Incarceration, yes, mental illness, homelessness, and then things that can happen out in the world that can affect you.
Yeah,
Wildfires or
environmental.
house fires, droughts, climate change, and so how that's affecting how the climate operates these days. Environmental injustice. You can live in certain communities, especially ones with lower socioeconomic status, like on outskirts of cities and stuff, where they're dumping stuff. There may be factories or things, or they haven't cleaned the water, regular pollution, floods, and then of course you said COVID-19. So
Lord,
there are a lot of different things that, again, you could just be born into, or things. And then, so think about this. So you could be born into something, right? And then you grow up going through something.
mm-hmm.
And then you get out there as an adult and other stuff happens to you. And then we're all supposed to be having healthy relationships with everybody. No, of course we have challenges, but then we're judging ourselves. Yes, Ms. Mocha says so many layers of trauma. Yes. And then we're judging ourselves, you know. But one of the things that I like about doing this work, the major thing I like about it is, despite all of that, you're here. And I've said this before. My favorite line, I remember I kind of chuckled the way he said it in the old movie Antoine Fisher. I don't know if any of y'all ever seen Antoine Fisher. There's the part where he goes back to the foster mom and says, "I'm still standing, I'm still strong." Yes, you're here, you're still standing, you're still strong, you are resilient. And it doesn't look like they're just being, it's not just bouncing back. Sometimes resilience looks like I'm crawling uphill backwards over rocks and roots and broken glass, but I'm still moving and I'm still standing and I still have hope. So, yeah, this affects your relationships. So
Wow.
I don't know if anybody out there think about it and what comes up for you.
Anybody, what comes up? I mean, first of all, thank you, Miss Mocha. That illustration was really powerful. Yes, it shows the layers, and gosh, there's so much that you shared. Definitely, right now, if you have a remark, if you have a response, we have people saying it was powerful. But what comes up for you in light of your relationships? We heard that not only are we having our own experiences, but we have experiences. Some of us, as Theresa said, were born into traumatic situations. Some of us are going through generational trauma. The doctor said that there's trauma that leaves an imprint on your genes. If you think about that, you were literally not even just born with it, you were conceived with it. To be the daughter, the granddaughter, the great, the 5-time great granddaughter of a woman who's gone through something, and subsequent generations of women have gone through the same thing, whether it be poverty, whether it be sexual violence, whether it be all of it. It's literally imprinted. That's just a lot to unpack. That with the layers. So that's even another layer. I have my genetic layer. I have my family layer. Then I have the societal layer. Then I have the domestic layers in my home. Then I have the hurricane. Lord. So how do we manage this? How is this showing up? So what's come up for someone? I have a hand raised. I had to put my glasses on for that tree.
Yep, sister girl.
Sister girl.
Sister girl has her hand up.
Sister girl, let me.
Well, I do want to say this because as I'm sitting here just listening to just all of the layers, it's amazing how many layers we can operate in, and we're still standing, and we don't even realize that we're operating in the midst of a heavy load that we're actually carrying. So many of us walk around just with the heaviness on us, and we have no idea to where it has come from. Why am I so angry? Why is this hurting like this? Why don't I want to love anybody? Why am I rejecting this love? What is it that's going on in me? Why do I keep drawing these kind of people? There's so many questions that we ask ourselves because there are places where we just rest in and we have no idea where it comes from. And as Black folks, we ain't doing a whole bunch of therapy. We are now, but earlier on, it was just get your act together, straighten up, act like deal with it, buck up, shake it off. And so many times we just haven't really dealt with the issues. But it is important for us, as we're talking now, to actually push in to what these issues are, to what it is that's hurting us. For me, there have been, and I can't think right now of any childhood traumas, but I can think of, the abundance of death, and I'm not even dealing with grief, but I'm just talking about how it has numbed me, just the layer of losses that I've had in recent years. And then when people ask me about even just the, are you going to get back out in the world and date again? I mean, I've gone through a whole bunch of losses. I'm thinking, no, I ain't trying to. I don't want to deal with nothing else. Everything else was already traumatic enough. I even have enough friends. I don't want to deal with any of that other stuff. I don't want to dig too deep. And I realize that is what I'm doing, but it's because of the impact of these series of losses that have come my way, and that's just in recent history. I don't even have time to look back further. I'm just trying to get past right now. Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
And so that's really
yes.
powerful. That's really powerful. So it could cause us to want to avoid connecting. And there may be somebody. Eve, I'm sorry, yes, ma'am.
No, I was saying Dr. Eve has something in the chat where she says, what came to my mind was how safety feels unfamiliar or even uncomfortable for someone with a trauma history.
Yes. Wow. Yep.
Yeah. Would you like to share on that, Dr. Eve? You're welcome to unmute.
Pardon me. I'm multitasking, eating.
Oh, I apologize.
No. I was talking to a group of women, my sisters in particular, and we were talking about how when we find someone, a partner, and they're showering and they're love bombing us, and they're showering us with all this goodness, and they're yummy, and they're doing all this that we want, and we just push them away. We push them away. And then we have these not so great men that comes into our lives, and then we try to fix them. Those are the ones we want to fix. Stay there. We want to fix them. Oh, he needs a job. Let me do his resume. Oh, he needs this. He needs that. And I'm gonna do it for him. We want to be Captain Save what? And another person that's good for us, we shun them. We shun them and we push them away because, oh shoot, this is too much for me. We can't handle it. And I'm guilty of that. I have to admit, I'm guilty of it. That's my share.
Wow, I think we all are, Dr. Eve.
Thank you.
That's so powerful once again, and that speaks of so many ways that trauma can shape us into thinking this way. You know what? I want to fix someone, and as opposed to, hey, I deserve to be treated like a queen. Let me go with this. And you hear so many people online, a lot of influencers, men, who are saying, well, what's wrong with women? What's wrong with women? How come they don't want the good guy? They don't want the nice guy. Well, there you have it. There you have it. It's not that we're trying to be mean or we just don't make any sense. We're working some things out. We're working some things out, as are many of them. Anyone else?
And Ms. Mocha said at some point that, yes, that's the resilience, while Sister Girl was talking, how you just keep going. And in a lot of our communities, that is, it's celebrated. The superwoman, being able to do this, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. And so there's the pull of the chronic stress and anxiety and, the superwoman cape. And then there's the inside screaming about it. And it's taking its toll, on you, and the person just wanting to rest. Yeah, Miss Mocha. I don't know if Miss Mocha, do you want to?
Would you like to come off of mute, Miss Mocha?
Yeah.
Let's not use the chat. Let's chat.
and I am putting some links for some resources in the chat for those of you who want to go in there. But yeah, that'd be great.
Yes. Good evening. You were speaking of the scenario with when it comes to, or somebody did, when dating, and how you don't go for that guy that's the really, really nice one, you go for the other one. And I just put in the chat that I feel like that's your nervous system is familiar with your traumas, and we've gotten so conditioned to things being a certain way, to, I guess, wanting that love, or making it seem like it's work, or making it seem like you can't feel safe in this healthy, with this healthy relationship. What feels normal to you is that thing that's really traumatic. But our nervous systems are so used to that trauma that you don't even know how to really receive somebody that is healthy. That's what I've learned in my journey in the last couple of years, is that, okay, I don't even know what safe looks like. I had to learn what it was I needed, because I didn't even realize I was operating out of, I guess, fear. And so it's just been a long journey. So everything that's been said, I think, is very informative. And our trauma is the thing that we really need to understand and give ourselves space with, so that we can have healthy relationships.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And what about I'm sorry, go ahead, Yaya.
Yaya.
Sorry. Peace, blessings. I have a question, or would like to hear what you would say to my specific situation from really early years. Was that my maternal grandmother, was strong influence in my life. She shared a lot of her childhood. She made a specific, she intentionally made it so that she had a lot of trauma in her life coming from many different directions. She shared so much of it with me, and I was young when she started to tell me her stories. And she also told me the story so that she could show me how she was intentionally making the change in our family, how she didn't want those same traumatic experiences falling upon the heads of her kids. And so when she married my grandfather, they purposely made life for my parents, my mom and her sisters, that generation. She protected them. She shielded them from all of the kinds of things that happened to her, because she shared, verbally shared so much of what had happened to her. I think I took on a lot of what happened to her. I sought to figure out and not, stay shielded like my mom was. I kind of looked for and was drawn to the kinds of things that affected her negatively. I think my intention was to try to help other people. I became a teacher. I'm a creative, and my productions and all of the things that I got into really spoke to the plight of Black women specifically, Black people specifically. And the conversation tonight is just making me wonder what you would say to that kind of experience, so that I didn't take advantage of the shielding. I allowed myself to skip what she purposely did for my mom and went into what she had to deal with, rather, if that makes sense.
So, without getting into specifics, what are you feeling? Like, what would you say is where are you with it right now? Like, what, because what I want to do is, especially as a creative, first of all, as a creative, you're such a gift to the world. And you, creatives help so many of us move through trauma and their chronic stress and all of that. So thank you for doing that work. Thank you for living it like that. So how do you see it? How do you feel it right now? How are you describing that? If that question makes sense.
I think I used it. I think I used it when I identified as a teacher, particularly in the middle school age group for about 20 years. I was teaching middle school. And I became a nurturer as opposed to the strict-handed. Well, obviously, the instruction was quality and strong and honest as far as the arts was concerned. But I became a nurturer of the kids who came through, and I recognized almost instinctively that there was pain in them. And it was very easy for them to speak to me, relate to me, rely on me. And it was very easy for me to use my own pain, my grandmother's pain, to help them to find ways to get through what they were dealing with. The specifics, are not uncommon. There was sexual abuse. There was the lack of a father in the home. There were multiple fathers for my grandmother. There were 6 children, and there were like 3 fathers between them. And so that was difficult for my mother, for my grandmother. Her mother was considered loose, and in the church, even folks in the church would frown down on her and speak to the fact that she had all these kids and she didn't have a husband, that kind of thing. Now the kids in the school system, they were being neglected by parents. Both, in some cases, it was the mom. In other cases, it was the dad, or even other family members who would do things where they should have been able to trust that these folks were there for them. And I use the arts in a lot of ways to tell our stories and speak to each other. Without giving a lot of information, they were able to release and get through. Many of them are doing really, really well for themselves because, and this all glory and honor is God's. So he just used me. And I feel honored to have been able to find my way spiritually to a place where I know that it wasn't me, but that I was being used to use these experiences, both my grandmother's and my own, to help others. So I'm really good with it because even today, my productions speak to the plight of the traumatized African Americans, the plight of the African Americans today in this society, the things that are going on even today, which feels like a looping of, history in a lot of ways. I don't know if I answered the question, but
yeah. Now, how do you feel about that? You sounded a little more, I don't know, like it was heavier before, but as I was listening to you and as you continue to talk about it, and almost like, to dig back into your experience, you sounded even like, yeah.
I feel like it wasn't a waste of time, of my time. It's like you go through things, you feel at the time like this is terrible, why, kind of thing. But I was able to make use of it in a positive way. And for that, I'm grateful. And today, I think the trauma, it is what it is, but it has not defeated me. And so I'm grateful.
And I'm going to quote Ms. Mocha as, that's the resilience. That's the resilience. Yes. We take the time to stop and talk about the stuff that hurts. And a lot of times we don't talk about the stuff that hurts.
Mm-hmm.
There are times when unfortunately, we'll go and grab whatever it is. I admit there have been times when I've been in great relationships with, cake after things happened that hurt my feelings and I went through. But I love how even then, as you talked about it, I could hear the remembering with the person who is, again, with the creative, with the there's an old song, Ordinary Joe, and in one part he says, you got soul and you can feel it. And that's what I could hear. And again, this is a reason why I like talking about this, is because sometimes we're so busy in it, like Sister Girl was describing earlier, like many of you are describing, we're so busy in it that we don't take the time to say, yes, I did it. We don't take enough time to just stop and say and feel how out of that you're able to be a gift to so many people. Out of that, you continue to stand and you help other people stand. I don't know if there are any gardeners or urban farmers or anybody here, but like the best fabulous soil, oftentimes you got to have all that terrible the horrible smelling fertilizer and stuff like that, the horrible fertilizer, but out of that some of your best stuff grows.
So this is amazing. We're hearing how just the resilience comes forth, and we're showing it forth in beautiful ways. And it's so interesting how Yaya said not only is this a genetic thing, but these stories were told. And it also reminded me of the tree where it said loss of innocence, because a child typically doesn't know all of these things have happened. And a lot of these things are very mature topics. And Yaya was that was given to her pretty early. And thank God for her resilience. And I've experienced her healing work myself, so she is truly, truly a gift, and we are just so grateful for that. So now those others of us, though, we're snapping off sometimes, we're not seeing our value sometimes, we are looking for a love interest who's not the best for us sometimes, as we've heard. So if we find ourselves with these behaviors, what do we do? Do you have any advice for us? I heard you speak of somatic work and the body and things like that. What are some things if we find ourselves acting out or reliving this trauma with our partners, with our family members? What can we do? And also, I'm sorry, as I asked that, if there's anyone out there who has done something, we heard Yaya, she has been creative and been a healing to others. If there's anyone else who has had some experience that has helped them to get through, to overcome, to find their resilience, so you can say that's the resilience. When you look back at something and say, oh, that was my resilience right there, please feel free to share that as well. Thank you.
Well, I can say this, that out of all the grief and the loss that I had gone through, I did become an advanced grief recovery method specialist, so that I could help other people come through what I came through, and what I could not verbalize. I enjoy hearing people verbalize and pour out what it is that they didn't feel like they could say, and do that heartfelt belly cry that they felt like, I needed to stay strong and not allow that to happen. One thing that I do know, that through the trauma of the losses, you talk about snapping off. Listen. I was a person who was very, I always like to be in control. I like to look like I got my act together, but I mean, it had me at times when I was out in the parking garage, laying folk out, totally not what I would consider to be my character, but I didn't have any place to place what I was feeling, and I could not exactly articulate it because I needed to be strong in the presence of my children, the grown children, and my younger child, and people around me. I didn't want people to feel like, oh no, she unraveling. No, she's not unraveling. Yes, she was unraveling. I had to get to the understanding that it was okay to unravel for a moment. It's okay because it hurts. So if it hurts you, people always understand the pain that you can physically see. I remember I broke my leg, and I remember coming into church, and I was on this walker, and everybody was upset because they knew the situation, and you could see people's tears. But after I buried my husband, and we buried my parents and all this other, everybody else would seem like they were passing away, cousins and everybody. But when I walked in and I was smiling and I was dressed neat, nobody could understand that. That leg was, if the leg in my heart was broken, shattered into pieces, just like the leg, just like the bone in my leg was. But it was easier to see. It's easier to accept. It's easier to get somebody to reach out a hand and help you. But once you bury somebody, at the funeral's over, the party's done, you got 3 days to get your act together. But I had to, I felt like God placed it on me. He put me there for a reason. It wasn't, it wasn't a punishment. It was an assignment. And so he showed me, gave me more tools to operate in the assignment. that he called me to.
Wow. Thank you for that. The phrase of the night. And that's the resilience.
Right. Did you see Dr. Eve's hand is up?
Yeah, I brought her to the screen. I'm gonna
I love it. And that's the resilience. Yeah.
and that's the resilience. And that's the resilience. Yes, Dr. Eve, thank you for your patience.
I want to. I'm not sure it was a sister girl that just spoke.
Yes.
Phenomenal. And I was yes, and while you were speaking. So thank you for that. I just wanted to say that dealing with my own childhood trauma as a full grown adult, what I learned is that actually it started when right after COVID. When I had COVID, I was sick as a dog and I thought I was on my deathbed, but I came back to work, and it was during a personal development that one of the icebreakers was, when was the last time you were happy? And then the person said, no, I'm talking about really, really happy. And so I don't even remember what the personal development was about, but I dwelt on that question. I was like, well, dang, girl, when was the last time you were happy? And I had to think back. It was years. It had been like maybe 25 years where I would consider myself truly happy. And it was from that day I said, you know what? You need to start walking in the direction of your happiness. Put everything else behind you and walk forward. That's going to be your trajectory. That's your life's trajectory, is happiness. That was the year that I decided to leave my profession, move what I think is a million miles away, and become happy. And I never looked back. It's been 4 years, and I can honestly say I'm truly happy. I'm truly happy. But also, I learned that I had to protect myself, you know, set boundaries with people that were serving me no purpose, um, making it a point to um, commit to self care. You know, I couldn't ball up in the bed and, not take showers for 4 or 5 days, or not get my hair done. And, I knew that self-care was going to continue me on that path to happiness. Also, getting out of my head, separating my emotions and by truly actually being empathetic for myself. I was empathetic for so many other people, but not me. I gave myself no mercy or grace. So, and another thing was awareness, making sure that I was aware of what I was doing, um, recognizing the signs, recognizing what was my ish, like I call it, or somebody else's ish, and not placing blame on myself. And yeah, I wanted to add that, but sister girl, I wanted to give you props again too.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm glad we didn't miss out on that. Find
Absolutely.
your happiness.
If I could, yes. Yes. I also I love Dr. Eve mentioned self-care. And in ways, Sister Girl was basically in some ways talking about self-care, in a different way. I just want to drop a little thing in there about how for women, a lot of times self-care is it's not just a me thing, there's a we thing. A lot of times it's part of it. We have to remember, I love so much of walk in the direction of your happiness. I love that. And I love how sometimes for some of us, we need somebody to, like Dr. Eve just did, and Sister Girl, basically, to model for us what it is. Sometimes there was an old book title, totally unrelated to this, or something they didn't know it couldn't be done. And to switch that up a little bit, they didn't know it could be done. Sometimes we have to live it, we have to see it, and that it helps when you're walking in the direction of your happiness, when you are admitting that, you know what, this just hurts and that's it, whatever, how that self-care kind of helps somebody. It has that communal, that ripple effect. And so thank you all for that. Thank you.
You know what else I heard from Sister Girl and from Dr. Eve was it was the first thing you had in that framework you shared, and that was tell the truth. Dr. Eve had to tell herself the truth. I'm not happy. And Sister Girl had to realize, even though she may not have told it to anyone, she had to tell herself, I'm hurt. I'm hurt. And that's where we have to start. That's where we have to start. And I think it's no accident that that was number one on that list, is to tell the truth. I'm hurt, I'm angry, and I don't even know why. I need to sit down with myself and figure out why I am always flying off the handle. I have to sit down with myself and say, I keep choosing men that just ain't no good. I don't know why I do this. And just be truthful. And that's where a lot of times we're going to find the trauma. When we stop and just ask ourselves why. A lot of times we sit there long enough, our body, our mind, our spirit will tell us the answer. And then it's time to go after the healing. It's time to go after the healing. So anybody else, Miss Theresa or anyone else, I can share mine when I was 35, so many years ago. Was my first time going to therapy. And there were a lot of things going on, and I just started complaining. And I was just going for it. She was like, I was like, yeah. She said, when did you learn how to give your rights away? And I was like, huh? And she really made me in minutes, because she didn't tell me anything. I knew. And I went right back to my own childhood trauma. And we started working through that thing. And it was impacting my relationships with everybody, but especially myself, because I was using everybody else as a tool against me. I was choosing everybody to be in my life who was against me. So that's one thing that I did. I went to therapy. And I prayed. I got in that Bible, and I shared this before. I just started to pour in what God says about me. And it was just so healing. And hey, he's close to the brokenhearted, and he saves those that are crushed in spirit. Period. It's like I saw somebody to do that, put a period on it. And that was the way that I had to get through the pain that I was dealing with. I was cranking my gospel music. And that's just, and I just had to push through. And I started to recognize, once I started to flood myself with that love and that positivity, it was like, I started recognizing that ugliness. No, that's not for me. That's not for me. I got to duck that. That's not for me. That's not who I am. And even this past year, I started realizing, no one had told me, but what the woman was saying, that hereditary thing. I'm like, well, why is it that I feel like I can see things for everybody else, but not for me? And it's just like my spirit told me, this is hereditary. Stop and think about it. Did my ancestry DNA and all that? Well, if my family has been in Maryland proper since the late 1700s, how many generations of women are before me that even had autonomy over their own body? That alone. So I had to deal with that. And I had a total meltdown in a restroom in Atlanta. That long story, but that's when it hit me. And I just leaned against the wall and I just had to cry. I was like, why do I feel this weakness in my heart? Lord, I'm praying about it. I'm like, why do I feel this weakness? And where's this weakness from? There's nothing weak about me. What is this that keeps telling me? And the Lord made me to know right then and there, that's what it is. So that's what I've been praying. I've been praying into that space and just to strengthen myself. So those layers are there. And Lord knows I brought them into relationships. So does anybody, with all that, does anybody else have something? How have they, have you found a partner that can help to unpack you? Or have you found yourself unpacking your partner? Have you, have we found healing in such a way? Or is there any steps that we've taken that's helped us to connect where we were not connecting? Even those of us, I went through times where I don't want nobody to touch me, emotionally or physically. How did you work through that? How did you work through that? If you had that struggle. So you can answer any of the 19 questions I think I just asked.
I was leaving space for one of the other people we haven't heard from to share a little bit.
Well, that's okay. If you have any suggestions, Theresa, that people, I know you have dropped some tools for the ladies that are present, but if there are any practices or strategies, books, you have also mentioned some books. What are some things that you can offer to us who are trying not to bring this trauma into the next relationship or to mitigate that, work on ourselves so that we can heal our current relationships? And we also remember we're talking about children, talking about siblings, anyone. So what are some
That's right.
You would offer?
That's right. Yeah. First of all, there's a whole encyclopedia. Remember encyclopedias, people? Let's say a whole Wikipedia of resources that just happen just being here. Again, to tell the truth, like Bessel van der Kolk's list, tell the truth. Community. His book, The Body Keeps the Score. There's My Grandmother's Hands. Are two wonderful books. The Four Pivots talks about how whole communities can have. He talks about healing centered engagement when we interact with each other in our communities. We can be healing centered. But I'd love this. I would invite all of us, including myself, to remember this experience right here. There were lots of times I had to take a breath. This was absolute this, and recreate this as often as you can and in as many ways as you can. Yeah, exactly. Sister Girl has her hand raised.
Yeah, one thing I think is important too is for us actually to kind of pull back and really kind of get to know ourselves for real. A lot of times we spend so much time trying to please other people, trying to just be strong and keep a strong face, keep a stiff upper lip, but we don't even know. I don't even know what that means. What's a stiff upper lip? But and then I know, right? but to really kind of look inward and get to know yourself again, that you lost in those places where those challenges began to happen. I'm as I've started to look back at myself and try to remember, and then I had to even go back further than what I thought I had to go to, and then I just kind of started to remember and to reacquaint myself with me, and of course, I'm been connecting more and more with God, and I'm a woman of faith, so I stand on my faith, and and I connect in that more and more. But there's a place inside of me where Jiiko was talking about that feeling, that weakness in there, and it's an amazing that in the middle of all of the weaknesses that you feel, that there's still this incredibly strong person that's still standing, but yet somewhere inside, there's that doubtfulness, that weakness. But just kind of wrapping yourself around yourself again, and being more and more acquainted with who you are. I think that's really important to find you again.
I know that's right. Thank you. And I would recommend in that for that process, I am huge on journaling, even though I'm not an everyday journaler. But if you start writing, like Sister Girl saying these things that that she's speaking of, sometimes you start writing, it just starts flowing. It starts coming up. It's just like how you push something down underwater and it floats to the surface. It just starts floating to the surface, these things that have been pushed down. So I would really, really recommend that. I would recommend, of course, all of the books. I would recommend really seeking after some somatic work. And you can also email Theresa, because these are things that we can share with you as well. Get that thing out of your body, walk, exercise, get some air, get some oxygen, and spend time with yourself, telling yourself the truth, hearing the truth, moving forward. These things will come up. All right. Do you mind sharing? I saw Dr. Eve sharing in the chat. Would you mind sharing it aloud so that we could all hear? Because I can't really read.
I can absolutely share.
Awesome.
I'm actually doing some work myself. I'm really getting myself together, and I would advise to get a pet. There's get a pet for self-care. You would not believe how taking care of something else that's precious and can help you take care of yourself. And but I wanted to say with my last partner, emphasis on last, I I realized that I didn't want to do what I used to do. It was draining. Um, Behaving in ways that were mother-like to my partners. And when I said, you know what, I'm not, this is a grown man. This is the person that I chose to be in my life. And I need to trust that he at least have half the answers to like get himself together or whatever. So rather than controlling his decisions, oh, I'll do it. I avoid giving him advice unless he asks for it. But I empowered him because that's actually what I needed. I found that when walking in the direction of my happiness, I knew that by empowering myself, that possibly that my partner needed that same empowering. So I did that, and then I felt that that was the most enriched relationship that I had in a very long time. I mean, we separated for good reasons. I mean, distance and things like that, etc. But for the most part, it was a true event that I can put in my happy box, and so and anyway, yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Wow. Thank you. That's so beautiful to see how you can shift with that partner. That is so beautiful. Yes, ma'am.
If I may offer one more thing, is I'm going to put another link in here. I hope you all are not getting tired of me throwing links in the chat, but another book is, and all you need to hear right now is the title of it. If you have not already heard of it, it's called Rest is Resistance.
Oh.
And I must say, one of the things that has been really different for me, I mean, I walk fast and I talk fast. And actually, for me, this is very, I'm reminding myself, slow down, slow down. And many of you have done this and still do it. You get into a project or you get into something you're doing, you're like, and you have to remind yourself to jump up, even go to the bathroom. Take a breath. Most people I know who just have had a heart attack, just like out of the blue, were too young for that. Much too young for that. And you don't need to take a lot of time or even do a lot of stuff. I mean, like, here kind of, take a minute while you're doing something, do a little something. I know Yaya can relate to that. I mean, I've done like, chair exercise classes, get your leg up and just take a minute. how often are you sitting there at work, just, just sitting at your desk or on your computer or doing whatever it is you're doing for people, and you're just being really still? Stand up, get up, I just, to be just here, to be here. We talk about knowing ourselves and embracing ourselves emotionally and physically, and slowing down. And then maybe it's a little bit easier to create space for others to do that for us as well.
Awesome. Pretty girl. She will be our last person for this evening. Pretty girl, you have something you'd like to say?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay. The way that I cultivate self-love is, well, I definitely do journaling every day, and I start out my day with meditation, and prayer, and I do journaling, and I do try to work out. But other things some other things I do to cultivate self-love is I've become more mindful. I have really trying to get to know myself more, to know what I think, what I feel, what I want, because um, being a mother, I was so used to making sure that everybody else was taken care of. I forgot to take care of myself. And I act on, so another thing is I act on what I need rather than what I want. Um, so like for example, even with the snowstorm, yeah, I wanted my whole driveway to be shoveled by myself, but I said no. I'm gonna just let me just make a path so my car can get out and back, and that's it. It's a path. Everything else will happen, organically. It'll melt. So, and I always try to practice good self-care. Like I enjoy baths, those little things that are important. Bath. I like to get massages. Um, I I just I don't rush now with drinking my coffee because I love drinking my coffee in the morning. Um, Things like that. And then another thing I do is I set boundaries. You know, like just now, I had because I in a lot of the women organizations, I'm an officer in some of my women organizations, and but this what I'm doing right now, the Sisters Sensation is important. So I got a call, but I sent it to my voicemail because this is my focus right now. I'm living in the moment. And that's one thing. I live intentionally, and I try to live in the moment, and I try to live my life to the fullest because I might not be here tomorrow. I mean, just like today, um, I got a piece of meat. uh, I was because I was chewing. I was chewing too. Well, I didn't chew enough, obviously, but I was chewing on a piece of meat, and it went down the wrong pipe. And I'm by myself, snowed in, and I couldn't breathe. And I was like, okay, I know the Heimlich maneuver, I knew CPR, but dang, girl, sister, this that doesn't help me. I can't do that on myself. I was looking like, what the heck? And I had to hope it doesn't gross anybody else, but I had to, force it up the other way because it wouldn't go down. And then, but I saw for a minute, I thought, dang, this is it. This is it. So I try to deal with what's going on right now, and live intentionally instead of, focusing on other things. And one of my books, because I'm a reader too, I'm an avid reader. I'm I read every day. And one of the books that I have read in the past, uh, choose yourself by James Altucher. It's Altucher. And it's a good book. But I read a lot of things like the Let Them Theory. I like Michelle Obama's books. But and sometimes I change up the self-help. I read our Supreme Justice's book because it was about her life and it was so interesting. Even the people who are in the limelight, they're just like you and me. And they have trials and tribulations too of you know, this whatever it is. And it was so interesting to read her book. It was probably one of the best books I read in 2025. But that's all I have to share.
Thank you. Thank you. That is excellent that you have that self-care routine down. I wish I journaled every day. I would be unstoppable. See, I'm going to, you're inspiring me. No, seriously. I'm like, I want that discipline to do these things every day. A lot of times I do them as needed or from time to time, but I think that's a great practice to do.
Jiiko, but I used to, well, let me tell you though, like if I do it every day, but like, for example, there was one day I didn't do it because I wasn't feeling good. Something was going on, but I put it in my journal, but I didn't stop. I said, hey, I'm back. In my journal, I put, I'm back. I had a rough day, but I'm back. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. So just reported the previous day. I know that's right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I kept it going, but hey, we all have bumps and things in the road. So like I tell my daughter, I said, sometimes you have to take baby steps or take it one day at a time for whatever healing or whatever, self, just, don't. And that's another thing another thing to cultivate. You got to forgive yourself. Say, okay, hey, I might not be able to journal every day, but at least if I can get to it at least 4 times a week, hey, I'm good. Because you really get to you got to forgive yourself and protect yourself.
Oh, that's right. I know that's right. We're working through a lot of things. We're working through our layers, right? Thank you so much. We are working through these layers. I thank you so much, Theresa, for coming today, for taking time out of your very busy schedule and speaking with us. And we hope to have you back. I just want to leave a couple of parting thoughts. I have a mentor. I have a few mentors, but one, he asked a question that I think is so powerful. And that is, what did you make that mean? And I think that when we are in the midst of our discourses with our loved ones, with our children, sometimes somebody might say something to us that doesn't sit right. And let's stop and say, what am I making that mean? It's not that they necessarily mean it. Not that they're trying to hurt you, but what did I just make that mean? Did I make that affirm something that's related to a hurt or a trauma? Did I make a connection that didn't need to be there? Remember, so you're hearing sometimes through a filter that we may need to stop and take the time to clean. So give yourself grace and compassion, as so many people have said, but also give others compassion, understanding that you're still working some things out. There's still those layers that you're cleaning up and trying to make them not a part of your lens. Because a lot of times we are seeing through that hurt little girl lens, that I got to protect myself lens. And so we're reacting sometimes in a way that's not healthy, or in a way that, one, somebody doesn't necessarily deserve. We may be causing an issue that we don't deserve. We may be choosing people that we don't deserve, but let's just keep working on those layers. And if somebody says something, let's ask ourselves, as much as we're asking that person, what you mean by that? Let's ask ourselves, what did I just make that mean? because sometimes that's what trauma will do. But keep loving yourself, keep doing the self-care, keep digging, keep telling the truth. That is just that's just the one to hit right there. Tell the truth, and then go down through the rest of the framework. Watch this episode, go back, play those slides back. Make it a part of your self-care routine to go back. Okay, wait a minute. I want to go back and see Theresa's slides again. Maybe there's something that I missed. Maybe there's something I'm not considering. And I can give myself a little more grace once I see, I'm dealing with that too. And guess what? Those people you're in relationship with are dealing with it as well. So keep on loving yourself and others. God bless, and come back, and we'll see you soon. Comment, share your stories, share what stood out for you, those big takeaways. All right, like, subscribe, so every time an episode drops, you'll be the first one to know. All right, have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the week.